Alright, welcome back to the channel, guys, and today I want to be talking about all of these PlayStation fans, or former PlayStation fans, and how they're actually converting over to Nintendo now. So, I've been seeing a lot of comments like this on social media, even on my YouTube channel. People have just been commenting saying that they hadn't played Nintendo in so many years, they just kind of stuck with PlayStation, and recently decided they were going to buy a Nintendo Switch 2. Some of it was because of the physical media debacle and how PlayStation is just going all digital in the future. But I've had some comments of people saying that they actually bought the Nintendo Switch 2 at launch because they were unsatisfied with what they were seeing with the PlayStation 5. They didn't even bother to buy a PlayStation 5 because they didn't see any games worth getting, overpriced, wasn't anything special to them. So they went ahead and they just held out until they got the Nintendo Switch 2, and now they're not just playing Switch 2 games, they're also got this backlog of Nintendo Switch games they can enjoy. And that's actually a huge benefit for people who hadn't been with Nintendo in the last decade. I mean, you have access not just to the Nintendo Switch 2 and Switch games, you even arguably have access to Nintendo Wii U games, Nintendo Wii games, Nintendo 3DS games. Because don't forget, the Switch 2 and the Switch in general, I mean, it is a hybrid console where you can pretty much play all of these handheld games that you missed out on. You can play these awesome home console games. So when you buy a Nintendo Switch, or even better, a Nintendo Switch 2, you got the backwards compatibility there. You can play all of the Switch games. But during the Wii U era, Nintendo had a lot of great games that didn't sell well. So they ended up porting and, putting all of those games on the Nintendo Switch. And as a result, you got people who are, now you have, access to those Wii U games, and a lot of which were really good games. On top of that, Nintendo has, remade games from the 3DS and the Wii. A perfect example would be Kirby, Return to Dreamland Deluxe. That was a Nintendo Wii game. I'm trying to think of a 3DS game. If I do, I'll get back to that in a minute. But there are some 3DS games, I believe, that were remade to be played on the Switch and the Switch 2. So, yeah, all this to say that, you're pretty much, in a way you could say you're like a kid walking into a candy shop for the first time in so many years. You've been eating nothing but crap salad and, very boring, so-called healthy snacks that just taste like crap or whatever, and so now you're going into this candy shop or whatever, and you get to enjoy all of this candy that you hadn't had before. Or maybe a better example, going into a buffet, for the first time. A very good, high-quality buffet, not a cheap one. It's a very good, pretty high-quality one. It's got a lot of great food to choose from when you've spent the whole year just eating salads, chicken, and very boring food. That's kind of like what it is right now. If you're a PlayStation fan who is coming back to Nintendo, or you're joining the Nintendo ecosystem for the very first time, you're just like, oh shoot, look at all these games. And it's not just the games themselves. Look at all of the ways you could play these games. You could play it on your handheld, or you could play it docked. You can detach the Joy-Cons to play with motion controls. Good way to play Cyberpunk 2077. Or you can play using mouse controls. You could use the mouse functionality, and you could play really good real-time strategy games like They Are Billions. That's one I highly recommend to anybody out there. It's only, if I'm not mistaken, that's only a $30 game. So, yeah, there's so many ways to enjoy this system. It's extremely accessible with the most amount of options. That's the thing people don't really talk don't talk enough about when it comes to Nintendo, is the amount of options that are right there. So many ways you can play for so many different games. So if you're a PlayStation fan, you're coming into this, you're coming from a very boring experience of just playing these very boring games that are just highly pretentious, slow. It's just, hey, notice how beautiful the graphics is. Notice how beautiful the game looks. Oh, it's also M-rated, so therefore it's a very adult-oriented game, right? You're going from that to then look at all these fun games, non-stop action. Look at all the modes you can choose from. Look at Kirby Air Riders. Look at Donkey Kong Bonanza. Extremely addicting game. Lots of fun gameplay. Lots of destructible environments. Look at how you can play these other games like Cyberpunk 2077. You could detach the Joy-Cons and shoot, by aiming the controller, similar to like the Nintendo Wii. I mean, there's so much there. The only thing Nintendo has left to do, really, is come up with an accessory where it's basically a second tablet that could be attached, a second screen that could be attached to your already existing Nintendo Switch console, Nintendo Switch 2. That way you could play it like a Nintendo DS or a 3DS, and have that second tablet be used as its own tablet controller, so that way you can have the controller, you can have the actual system docked, and you can play Wii U games, because there's a lot of Wii U games that utilize the gamepad in a really cool way. If Nintendo does that, it will literally just be the most complete video game console that has ever been made, because you can basically play it the way you could play any other video game console before that. You can enjoy it like you enjoyed your Nintendo DS, 3DS, Wii U, you name it. You could even, it's arguable that the Virtual Boy is Nintendo's VR, and if they start making, dedicated VR games that isn't just simply, red hologram, whatever, it's actually full colored games, then there you go. I mean, you have everything all in the Nintendo Switch 2 if they were to do that. But right now, I could imagine how much fun it is going from being a PlayStation fan who's been playing just these boring games in the last 10 years to now playing games that are actually fun, like Star Fox, like, Kirby Air Riders, all of these really great multiplayer games. We're about to get a really good single-player game coming out that has multiplayer in it. That will be Splatoon Raiders. But it's got to be like, to me, I think the best analogy is, you're an adult right now, right? And the idea of fun for adults is going to the bar, talking, having a drink, eating a nice little meal, and just kind of socializing, That's kind of the idea of fun. That's supposed to be the idea of fun for adults. But imagine saying, let's do something, that would have been fun to us when we were kids, when we were teenagers. Let's go to like a trampoline park, to a jump park, where there's just multiple trampolines, obstacle courses. We could just run around, jump, flip. We could do wrestling moves on each other and all this cool stuff and just have a complete blast. That's what it's like going from, PlayStation to Nintendo. You're leaving this boring socializing, sitting at the bar, hobby, for then something that's actually fun. Going to a playground, playing paintball, going to an arcade, going to a trampoline park. That's what it's got to feel like right now. Going from being a PlayStation fan to now a Nintendo fan. And if you're a PlayStation fan or a former PlayStation fan who decided to pick up the Nintendo Switch 2 recently and you've been playing it, I'd like to get your thoughts. What kind of games are you getting for it? How are you playing the games? Are you playing it in handheld mode? Are you using the Joy-Cons as Wii controls, where you're just using the motion controls and all that? Are you using the mouse functionality to play some of these games? Are you playing the first-party games that you missed out on because you didn't have a Nintendo console? Or are you just going to enjoy third-party games on the system and just take it with you wherever you can go? There's a multitude of reasons to own a Nintendo Switch 2 over the PlayStation and Xbox systems. And primarily it's for those reasons, the accessibility, the amount of ways to play, and just the powerful and rich library of exclusives that Nintendo offers. It's also worth mentioning the cost. Okay, so this is what's funny. I remember, it was literally just 1 year ago when Nintendo had their big presentation for their Nintendo Switch 2 system, the games and all that. And after people saw the prices online, what the price would be for Mario Kart World, big old backlash. Online, everyone was having an outrage. Most of it was fake, of course. Most of it was just forced outrage from people who didn't like Nintendo and still don't like Nintendo. And it was just basically, this is the face of greed. This is the most greedy company in the entire world, this and that, and drop the price. We went from that to, by the way, it didn't really work because it ended up being the fastest selling system anyways, right out of the gate. But it's funny how we went from that to 1 year later, everybody hates PlayStation. Everybody hates Sony right now. And you have PlayStation fans who are just buying a Nintendo Switch 2. PlayStation fans who say that the PS5 is going to be their last system. They're not going to buy anything else. They're not even going to buy any more games coming out real soon. So you got, it's funny. It's funny how the backlash this time around has actually caused a negative effect against PlayStation, whereas all of the backlash and noise against Nintendo just 1 year ago didn't really do much, because they were successful right out of the gate. They were selling just millions and millions and millions of systems. They were the highest selling system for months and still are. And people were surprised, like, wow, we did not expect them to do this well, and it's not just the hardware itself, it's also the games. And it is pretty funny how we went from that to all this outrage and backlash against PlayStation, and it is seemingly having a negative effect as we're seeing PlayStation fans convert over to Nintendo. And, as the saying goes, Nintendo is winning by doing nothing, and sadly, that is true, which, I'm saying sadly because I wish Nintendo was doing a little bit more right now as far as, announcements, game surprises, and things like that. I think there's a lot more they should be doing. I want to see more games, and I'm a little bit pissed off at them, even though we are getting some good games and whatnot. There's a lot that they're doing that is right, but I wish I could see more. But back to what I was actually going to say about Nintendo being the most affordable right now. I mean, everyone had all this backlash against them, right? And isn't it funny how as time went by, since then, months going by, we saw PlayStation and Xbox jacking up the prices of their systems. We saw, jacking up the price of Game Pass, PlayStation raising the price of their online services. We saw all these bad things happening with them, and then it's like people just kept getting more and more quiet about Nintendo, because it was becoming quite evident that Nintendo was still the most affordable system, and it still is. And right now, even when they go up by September, when they go up, by $50, they are still going to be the most affordable system on the market. $500, way cheaper than all these PlayStation and Xbox systems that are close to $1,000. So Nintendo right now, they're still in arm's reach of the average consumer. And on top of that, they're getting all of these third-party games that they used to miss out on. They still have the best and richest library of first-party games. Oh, by the way, their online services, despite adding GameCube games to the NSO, is still only $50 a year to have access to that entire library of classic games and to be able to play online with your friends, to be able to use voice chat and all that. Only $50 a year. Whereas for the other guys, it's like a ridiculous amount of money. It's more than hundreds of dollars per year that you are paying. So it's going to be interesting to see if Nintendo capitalizes on this, if they have a really good Direct come out soon, if they add some new online features, achievements. It looks like they were experimenting with that when it comes to the Donkey Kong challenge mode. They had these cool Donkey Kong cars that you can unlock. And it would be annoying if those just magically disappear. I'm hoping that's not the case. I'm hoping that we end up getting an achievement system in that way where you can show off your own cards to other players. Like, look at these cards that I unlocked and everything like that. That would be really cool. And it'd be even more cool if you can use them in some way. I think all they need to do next is make it to where you can have certain themes for your basically for the menu, the lobby, and stuff like that on your system, and people can see it. I think that would be the next big step. I think maybe getting a little bit more creative with your profile pictures as well. There's a lot more I feel like they can do. I think it'd be cool if you can mix and match different IPs with each other. Have an F-Zero and Metroid background somehow, or you can have multiple different IPs, Nintendo IPs that you actually love, just to kind of show people what you're really into, which games best define you as a Nintendo fan. So yeah, I think there's a lot that Nintendo could do right now to capitalize on this situation, but they always seem to be moving at their own pace. They're always moving just steady and whatnot. But right now, it looks like they're destroying PlayStation. And, if you hadn't seen my last videos about the sales of the hardware and software in Japan and the UK, yeah, Nintendo's pretty much curb stomping them. It's like 17 games for Nintendo are the best-selling games in the UK, and there's not one out of the top 40 best-selling games in the UK, you don't see one PlayStation game. You don't see one game from Sony that is on that list, and that's a very big deal. So, yeah, Nintendo destroying the competition. They played their cards right all along, and despite the stupid noise we've gotten from fake-ass people on the internet talking about how evil they are and everything like that, it's just not the truth at all. When you actually think for yourself and you actually look into the situation, you look into what they're doing, what they have to offer, you will see that they are the best system, the best bang for your buck, and they're high quality. They're the best quality and yet the most affordable somehow. So, yeah. Anyways, I'm curious to hear from a lot of you guys, especially if you're a PlayStation fan or even an Xbox fan who's left Xbox for Nintendo. If you're someone who was always just a PC gamer, but you saw recently that the Steam machine is going to be $1,200, and you're just like, yeah, no thanks, I'll just get the Switch 2 instead. Whoever you are, if you are coming back to Nintendo or you're joining the Nintendo ecosystem for the very first time, definitely leave a comment on this video and tell me all about it. What made you come to the Nintendo ecosystem? What made you get a Nintendo Switch 2 or a Switch? And what games are you going to get? What games are you playing currently and why? I definitely want to hear from you guys. So that's going to be it for this video. You guys take care. Leave as many comments as possible. Do not forget to like this video if you liked it. If you liked it, hit like right now. Go ahead and share it, reshare it with friends, family members, whoever it might pertain to. And yeah, subscribe to the channel because I do regularly upload videos on, relevant topics or just topics, video game topics in general. So that's going to be it. You guys have a good one, and I will talk to you all later.